The clock read 2:17 a.m. when I finally let out the breath I'd been holding for hours. The rain outside was relentless, thrashing against the window like it had something to prove. My apartment was quiet, too quiet, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my heart still racing from what had happened just hours ago. I thought the night was finally behind me. I thought the storm had passed. I thought she was gone for good. But then, just as I started to close my eyes, there came a knock at the door. It wasn't loud. It wasn't hurried. It was soft, deliberate, like someone trying not to wake the world, but desperate enough to wake me. And in that instant, every muscle in my body froze. I knew that knock. Before I take you deeper into this story, before you find out why that single knock changed everything, take a moment, right now, to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances. This story might just remind you why those things matter more than we think. Her name was Elena. The kind of person who carried a smile that could light up a broken room but eyes that betrayed a storm behind them. We had met 6 months ago when I moved into this building. She lived just one floor below me, always in a rush, always late for something, but somehow, always polite. We started with small exchanges, a shared elevator ride, a borrowed umbrella, a coffee spilled accidentally that turned into a conversation that stretched past midnight. What began as casual turned into something far too deep, far too fast. And yet, I didn't mind. It had been years since I'd felt seen. Since someone had looked at me not as a passing face, but as a story worth knowing. Elena had that rare way of listening, like she wasn't just hearing your words but feeling them. She became my calm in a world that no longer made sense. But calm never lasts. Not when both people carry storms of their own. She had secrets. You could tell from the way she'd suddenly go quiet when her phone buzzed. The way her laughter would fade if certain topics came up. I didn't pry, maybe because I had secrets too. Maybe because love, in its earliest stages, is often built on hope rather than truth. Then came last night. It started like any other evening. She came over after work, soaked from the rain, carrying takeout and that tired smile that always melted my anger before it even began. We talked, ate, laughed, but somewhere between the laughter and the silence, something shifted. A message popped up on her phone, just one, but it changed everything. I didn't read it. I didn't need to. The look on her face said enough. It was guilt. Raw, unfiltered guilt. She tried to hide it, tucking her phone away, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And for reasons I still can't explain, I just knew. The next moments are a blur, my voice raising, hers breaking. Accusations thrown, truths half-spoken. She said something about not meaning to hurt me, something about it being complicated, and before I knew it, the front door slammed. That was it. I sat on the couch for hours, staring at the imprint her coffee cup left on the table. I thought the night was over. I thought our story was done. Until she knocked again. When I opened the door, she stood there, drenched, shaking, mascara streaking down her cheeks, clutching something in her trembling hands. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just stared. She looked like a ghost returning to a home that no longer wanted her. I didn't know where else to go, she whispered. She stepped inside without waiting for permission, leaving a trail of rainwater on the floor. I noticed the envelope in her hands. It was torn, damp, the ink almost smudged away. She pressed it against her chest like it was keeping her heart from breaking apart. She looked up at me with eyes that begged for understanding, but I didn't move closer. My mind was still replaying every harsh word from earlier, every doubt that had eaten away at the good parts of us. She took a deep breath, and her voice trembled when she spoke again. It wasn't what you thought, she said softly. That message wasn't from someone I'm hiding from you, it was about my brother. My heart stumbled. She continued, explaining through stifled sobs. Her brother, Ethan, had been missing for 2 years. He'd gotten involved with people who dragged him into things darker than anyone should face. Drugs, debts, dangerous company. She had spent years searching for him, quietly, desperately, trying to protect him from himself, and from the people looking for him. The message she received last night wasn't a betrayal. It was a location. Someone had found him, hurt, alone, miles away. I didn't want you to know, she whispered. Because I was scared you'd leave if you saw the chaos that follows me. The room fell silent. The rain outside softened, like it was listening. In that moment, all my anger, all the noise in my head, began to fade. I realized how easily we judge the silence between words, how quickly we fill the gaps with our own fears instead of trust. I took the envelope from her trembling hands. Inside were a few photographs, old ones. A young boy, smiling beside her. Letters written in faded ink, signed D. They weren't lies. They were pleas. I felt a lump rise in my throat. All she had ever done was try to protect the people she loved, even if it meant breaking her own heart in the process. She looked at me then, her voice barely a whisper. I just need one night of help. I can't do this alone. What do you do when the person who hurt you shows up asking for help? When the pain they caused collides with the pain they've carried alone? Something inside me, something quiet but stubborn, told me this wasn't about forgiveness. It was about humanity. About choosing compassion even when your heart still stings. So, I nodded. We left before dawn. The rain had stopped, but the world still looked washed out, pale and cold. We drove through empty streets, her hands clutching that envelope like it held her last hope. Hours later, we found him, in an abandoned shelter on the outskirts of the city. He was thinner, weaker, but alive. When she saw him, she broke. Her sobs filled the room, raw and unguarded. I watched as she cradled his face, whispering things I couldn't hear. I stepped aside, giving her space. And as I did, I realized that this messy, painful, beautiful moment, was life in its truest form. The kind where love doesn't come wrapped in perfection but in persistence. We brought him home that morning. I stayed with her for days, helping her get him into rehab, finding her a bit of peace after years of chasing shadows. There were moments she'd fall apart, moments she'd laugh through tears, and moments where we'd sit in silence, realizing that sometimes, love is simply showing up again, even after everything falls apart. Weeks passed. Her brother began to recover, little by little. And in that time, Elena and I found something we thought we'd lost, us. Not the same version as before. Something quieter, more fragile, but real. She told me she didn't deserve a second chance, and I told her that maybe none of us ever do, we just get one when we need it most. We started taking walks again. She'd bring her camera, capturing random corners of the city. I'd bring coffee, and we'd just exist. No expectations. No promises. Just two people learning to heal beside each other. One evening, as the sun dipped low, she said, I never thanked you for opening the door that night. I smiled and said, I never thanked you for knocking again. Sometimes I still think about that night, the rain, the silence, the knock that pulled me out of my own bitterness. I think about how easily we mistake endings for beginnings disguised in pain. Life rarely gives us perfect closure. More often, it gives us chances, disguised as people returning when we least expect it. If you've ever had someone come back into your life, not to fix what was broken, but to remind you that love can still grow in the cracks, hold on to that feeling. Because that's where hope lives. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of someone you once loved, lost, or forgave, then please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more people find stories that remind them that healing is possible. Speech balloon special request: before you go, drop a comment below telling me, would you open the door again if someone you once loved came knocking? That night taught me something I'll never forget. Sometimes the most beautiful chapters begin with a knock you weren't ready to hear. Because even when you think the night is over, life has a way of starting again.